This is a video which I am making on a request by somebody who wanted me to explain between planets and the depositors and the relationship between them, and how will the results play out, what will be the manifestations. Now firstly, we know that a planet, when it is placed in a friendly sign or placed in its own sign or placed in a Murtrikona sign or placed in its exaltation sign, gives very good results. And we also know that if they are placed on the contrary in inimical signs or in debilitation signs, or if they are combusted, then they definitely give challenges. So what is the relationship between a planet which is placed in a certain house or sign and its depositor? And do the strength of the depositors, the strength of the planet's own placement, does that play a part in the overall manifestations of the final results or the overall results for the individual? Let's look at the rule. The rule is simple. A planet which is placed in any sign will absorb some of the characteristics of that sign, and the planet which is the depositor, which is the ruler of the particular sign, will carry some elements of the characteristics of the planet which is placed in its sign. So both of them will give some elements of energies of each other. Say for example, for an Aries ascendant native, if Mars is in a debilitation sign in Cancer, and we know that the Lagna Lord is getting into its debilitation sign, so definitely there is going to be a challenge. However, its depositor, which is Moon, if Moon goes into its exaltation sign in this second house, then what happens is that here Moon, by virtue of being placed very strong, firstly the sign in which Mars is placed, it rules the fourth house, a Kendra house. A planet, the house, when it is a fourth house or a fifth house, then it's a strong house. So the sign, if it's placed in that house, acquires the strength of the house also. A sign which is getting into a Dusthana, for example, for a Sagittarius ascendant native, Moon rules the 8th house. So here Moon's, by virtue of ruling the 8th house, that means the sign Cancer being placed in the 8th house, then it loses some of the strength, the sign gets carried away, or the sign manifests some of the malefic results of the 8th house. So the house plays an important part in the overall strength of the sign also. And the depositor, that means the ruler of the particular house, wherever it is placed, it carries the energy of that house. So if the depositor or the ruler of that house is ruling a fourth house or a fifth house, which is the Kendra or a trine house, then it carries the extra strength by virtue of ruling a fourth house and the fifth house, a Kendra or the trine house. But on the contrary, if the planet rules the Dusthana, then it carries some of the malefic energies of the Dusthanas to wherever it is going and getting placed in. So here, for an Aries ascendant native, though Mars gets debilitated in the fourth house in Cancer, but if Moon goes into the second house in Taurus, then Moon is carrying the energies of ruling a Kendra house, plus Moon is very exalted in the sign of Taurus. What does this mean? Which means that Mars will not be able to give challenging results of the house that it is placed in, but Mars will definitely give challenging results of its own variations or its own manifestations. So in terms of the energy of the person, in terms of the temperament of the person, in terms of the person being able to carry his poise or be able to take the battle to the opponent or be goal oriented, the person will definitely face a challenge. However, in the matter of the fourth house is the material gains, the fourth house is the relationship with the mother, the fourth house is also about your education. There Mars will not be able to do a big impact because Moon has got exalted in the Taurus sign. Mars will have some bearing, being debilitated in the sign and being a Lagna Lord, will have some bearing and will be able to spoil some manifestation of the house, but not the complete manifestation of the house or the overall manifestation of the house, because the Lord of the sign, the Lord of the house, is carrying both the energy of it being a Kendra house, and the depositor, which is the ruler, is getting placed in an exaltation sign. So keep this in mind, that don't be overawed and don't be pulled in different directions just because you see planet which is debilitated, or planet which is going into an inimical sign, or planet which is placed in a bad yoga alone, don't be carried away with that or lose heart, or neither be too excited because a planet is placed in a good placement, in a friendly sign, or an exaltation sign, especially if the depositor or the ruler of the house or the sign where this planet is placed, its ruler, its depositor goes and gets placed in a tough placement, then those things will also manifest. Let's take a few more examples. In the same example, for an Aries ascendant native, now Mars goes into the 4th house in Cancer in its debilitation sign, but Moon goes into the 8th house in Scorpio. Now one may argue that this is a Parivartana yoga because you are exchanging signs, but in spite of it being a Parivartana yoga where you are exchanging signs, exchanging houses, yet you will find that the challenges abound. It is not a strong Raj Yoga, it is in fact a poor Raj Yoga. Some manifestations of it being a Raj Yoga because of being a Parivartana Yoga will come about. However, to a large extent, challenges both of the 4th house and the 8th house will come about because the planets which are placed in it are debilitated, and the depositors of those planets are also debilitated. So the 4th house planet is debilitated, and the Lagna Lord, which is a Kendra Lord, is also debilitated, and the 8th Lord, where the 4th house depositor, which is ruler, is placed in, that also gets debilitated. So if both the planets are carrying negative energies, then the overall manifestation of the house also gets affected, and gets affected poorly. Now on the contrary, let's take an example of a Pisces ascendant native. So when the moment you convert the ascendant from Aries to Pisces, now what happens? Now let's have Mars and Moon again getting into the same signs and into debilitation. So for a Pisces ascendant native, Mars goes now into the 5th house in Cancer sign and gets debilitated there, and Moon now goes into the 9th house and gets debilitated there. So now what is happening? The planets Mars and Moon are getting debilitated in trine houses. So because of being debilitated in trine houses, the lordship of the trine houses is strong. So here Mars will still be able to give challenging results because the Mool Trikona sign of Mars is the 2nd house, which is also Marakasthan. However, now Moon, by virtue of ruling one trine house, which is the 5th house, and going into another trine house, which is the 9th house, the Scorpio, Moon's effect will not be as bad or as challenging as Mars result will be. Mars result will be more challenging because while Mars rules Scorpio sign, which now rules the 9th house, but its Mool Trikona sign is the 2nd house, which is a Marakasthan, and now going into the 5th house. But because it has gone into the trine house, and it rules at least one trine house, even if it's not the Mool Trikona sign, so the damages of the 5th house, the manifestation of the 5th house in a challenging manner will be reduced to an extent. But Moon's challenging results will be considerably reduced because Moon rules one trine house and goes into another trine house, goes 5th from itself. And we have seen is as one of the rules earlier on where we said that if a trine lord or a Kendra lord goes in a Kendra position or 5th position or trine position from itself, then it is stronger. But we have also said that it should rule a trine house also and should not go into debilitation, or it should not go into an inimical sign. However, here instead of still going into its debilitation sign, still Moon will retain a lot of strength, and Moon's results of the 5th house and Moon's results of the 9th house will be much reduced on the malefic extent, and some good will also come out of it because Moon, being the depositor of the 5th house, will carry good strength, good energy. So you have to see in relation to these. Now we were talking about two debilitated planets. Let's take the example of one planet going into its debilitation, but the depositor being placed in a strong house again, just like we saw for an Aries ascendant native. Now let's take the example of a Leo ascendant native. Now for a Leo ascendant native, Mercury rules the 11th house of gains and also rules the 2nd house of income and savings and earnings. And if Mercury now goes debilitated into the 8th house in the Pisces sign, now Mercury in terms of gains, livelihood, savings definitely will show challenges because going into the 8th house and debilitation, so savings will go up and down, earnings will go up and down, social connections will go up and down, will show challenges, sudden upheavals will happen. However, if Jupiter, which rules the 8th house, if it goes and gets placed into the 5th house, a trine house in its own Mool Trikona sign of Sagittarius, then what happens? So here, because the depositor of the 8th house has gone into a very strong house, a trine house in its Mool Trikona sign, then Mercury will not be able to give challenging results of the 8th house, though it is giving results, challenging results of about its own self and about livelihood and about social connections. So Mercury will give challenges where the person, because of sudden challenges, sudden issues related to news or communication about his or her work or his or her increment or his or her earnings or his or her saving. So in sudden issues coming up which the 8th house will manifest, the analytical ability of the person will be weak, and so the person will not be able to take good, strong, practical, logical decisions in the matters of the 11th house or the 2nd house, and make poor decisions, and so the earning, the saving, the livelihood may still be affected. For example, somebody has a challenge at work, and because in a challenging situation where the company says we are not giving you a good increment, because of the pandemic, the person becomes infuriated with rage and then quits his job, and he wants to take up another job. Now he has quit one job in rage or taking a poor, illogical decision, impractical decision, without understanding what is the state of the situation around himself and overrating himself, and then finds himself jobless. So sudden issue which came up where he was not getting a good increment related to the 2nd house, he took a poor analytical decision and lost his livelihood, lost his savings. Now, but what happens? Can Mercury give challenging results over the 8th house? What is the 8th house? 8th house is accidents, 8th house is ill health, 8th house is hospitalization, 8th house is challenges in taxation, challenges in shared property, poor relations with in-laws, challenging results related to insurance and all that. However, if Jupiter, which rules the 8th house, goes into a trine house in its own sign of Sagittarius, here the 8th house results will not be challenging in spite of debilitated planet playing place, because the depositor of that house or the ruler of the house, Jupiter, is gone into a trine house in a smooth Trigona sign and is able to give strong results. So what will happen here? In spite of challenging results where the person has lost his livelihood, his shared property, which is constituted by the 8th house, that will come to his rescue. So he may start depending on shared earnings from shared property between him and his spouse and get some rent out of it, or he may claim some insurance, and so insurance will come to his rescue, and he may be able to draw some money out of his insurance money, and then he may be able to sustain during that tough, challenging period and wait for good things to happen to him. And if Antardasha of Jupiter comes along or a good transit of Jupiter comes along, then he will not remain without livelihood for a long time. So you need to see the connection between a planet placed in a sign or a place in a house and the depositor of the house, which is important. If both the placement of a planet in a certain house or in a certain sign is challenging, and its depositor, which means the ruler of the particular house, also gets placed in a challenging placement, in debilitation, in combustion, or in an inimical sign, that too in a Dusthana, then the results of both the houses will be a challenging ones. However, if a planet goes and gets placed in a tough sign, so its own rulership of the house will definitely bring challenges, like we saw for Leo ascendant native, where Mercury rules the 11th house and the 2nd house, and both the results come bad because Mercury is placed in debilitation in the 8th house. However, its depositor, which is Jupiter, because that is placed very, very strong, then the challenging results about that house will not come as bad or as challenging as the results of the planet which is placed in that particular house. These are final elements of astrological placements, and one needs to understand meanings of placements, strengths of planets, the relationship with the depositors, relationship with each other, and so then we will be able to manifest these results better. Otherwise, lot of times we make errors, we make poor judgments because we are just able to see a debilitated planet or we are able to see a combusted planet and we jump to conclusions. So generic results should never be seen. So even when I am talking about 8th lord in different houses, 7th lord in different houses, these are generic results. These may or may not have a bearing on your final results to you particularly. because your placements may be stronger than somebody else's. So many times I do get in the comment section people say, but this is not true, I agree to other viewpoints of yours, but I don't agree to this viewpoint of yours. I may humbly tell you that everything that I may say may not come true for your respective horoscope, because what I am saying is more generic, but for a specific horoscope things may be different. Your depositor may be strongly placed and much better placed than the placement of a planet in a certain house. So guys, keep this in mind and look into your horoscopes again. Look into the depositors of a poorly placed planet and also look into the depositors of a very well placed planet. Then you will be able to draw more conclusions, more finer conclusions, why a badly placed planet is still be able to give you good results and a well placed planet is still giving you challenging results. And look into those things and prepare yourself accordingly and face those situations accordingly. So friends, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation for me, please reach out to me, the links given below. Until some other time with some other video, this is your friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off.